The Chinese government, the CCP, is using birth tourism on an industrial scale. Our federal government has no idea. The notion that somebody can literally drop off their pregnant wife, gives birth here, and as soon as the baby is able to get on a plane, you're flying back to China. You have anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 Chinese nationals a year doing this for 13 years. Not to even mention the issue of surrogacy. They're going to be voting in our elections.
In this episode, I'm sitting down with investigative journalist Peter Schweitzer, the author of multiple New York Times bestsellers, including most recently, The Invisible Coup.
They favor mass immigration. Why? Because they see it as having a transformative effect on American society. It's the way to kind of remake society in the vision that they want.
This is American Thought Leaders, and I'm Yanya Kellick.
I'm going to go into this show today because when you think about birthright citizenship and you think about the Civil War, you think about the Revolutionary War, I want you to consider this one thing, how important that the black people has been into this society where we are once again being called upon to save white America from itself. And that being, you might say, what? Yeah, I said it. We are once again being called to save white America from itself. When you think about the whole idea with regards to birthright citizenship and that it was intended to be for black Americans to have the ability to have a home in this country, and how seemingly it has been introduced into so many forms of different with regards to immigration, and how it has transformed American society in terms who is legally should be considered a citizen in this nation. This video is going to go into that because birthright citizenship is really about to change the scopes. The ruling that's going to come out of the Supreme Court is going to change the scopes about how we are viewing citizenship in this country when it comes to, from childbirth. And if you don't consider that, it's going to make an impact. Now, this impact is from 125 years since the Wong Kim Ark case. I've done a show with regards to the review of the case, some of the studies that's going on right now with regards to the case. So those individuals who have dual citizenship in other countries, those individuals who didn't file applications for their citizenship to be renounced from the country that they come from, and who have been accepted into the United States, has asked the United States and has been accepted into the United States as being citizens in this country, their children, all right, if the ruling keeps up with regards to how the argument has exploded since Trump's executive order with regards to birthright citizenship, if the order holds up, it is going to change the landscape of America. And like I said, those who we consider to be citizens in this country, and it all stems from the 14th Amendment. And there would not be a 14th Amendment if it wasn't for black people. Accordingly, if I can get to the right page.
Peter Schweitzer, so good to have you back on American Thought Leaders.
It's always great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So congratulations on, at the very least, being at the top of Amazon with your new book. That's kind of an unbelievable achievement in itself. I read it through and I discovered so many things that I didn't actually know about. Like, for example, that there's a template of weaponizing migration in 1980, right? The Mariel boat lift in Cuba. Why don't we just start with that? And we're going to jump into all things China, because you know that's what I'm always most interested in. But there's actually a template for weaponized migration. I didn't know. What is it?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've been having this national conversation about immigration as it relates to things like jobs and crime on our streets. But this issue of weaponized immigration is new in a lot of respects for a lot of people. But we've actually experienced it. And there was a government study that was done probably 20 years ago or so that looked at what were the most successful attacks on the United States. Number one, of course, was 9/11. Number two was Pearl Harbor. Number three was the Mariel boat lift. And the Mariel boat lift was weaponized immigration. And what happened was that there was a growing cry in Cuba for people who wanted to leave Cuba to come to the United States. So Fidel Castro said, we're going to turn this into a weapon. So what they did was seated among people who just wanted freedom in the United States were people from insane asylums that were released with this group, criminals, intelligence officers. So there were 125,000 Cubans that came, but it caused a huge problem with the growth in drug networks, crime in our streets, intelligence and subversion by the Cuban government. And there's a sort of a famous story that I describe in the book based on high-ranking Cuban defectors, where Jimmy Carter, the American president at the time, as this exodus was starting, said, we're going to welcome these people with open arms. And Fidel Castro responded by saying, we're going to fill their arms with excrement. He used a stronger word than that. So this was weaponized immigration. And what's interesting about this government study that looked at 9/11, Pearl Harbor, and the Mariel boat lift as the most successful attacks, what the study said was, Mariel boat lift might have been the best of the attacks by our adversaries because what happened with 9/11? Well, we essentially dismantled Al-Qaeda. We killed them. Pearl Harbor, we defeated the Japanese Empire. But with the Mariel boat lift, when you weaponize immigration, who do you attack? Who do you bomb? Who do you go after on the battlefield?
So I'm just going to read some of the comments that came from this video. It says, one of the comments from Gregory Lava, a 4494, in a birthright citizen and backdated 30 years. Another individual says, Rick-B, we got to rethink birthright citizenship. Run for CMT in birthright citizenship and make it retroactive. If your parents were not legal when you were born, then no citizenship. If you were not raised here, no citizenship, and no dual citizenship. Let's go to another one. Another one says, not only China, also every Muslim and communist country. So we must have a stricter procedures before entry to American soil, period. So Donna Lightsey, 5707. My birthright certificate states where both my parents live. How can the government claim they do not have any information on the parents of nationality? So these are some of the comments while we're looking, because I don't feel like I just need to comment on this too much. You're going to see different nationalities with regards to when he's speaking on it. That's come from origins of other countries, all seemingly have some ideas to infiltrate the United States of America when it regards birthright citizenship.
And it creates this weird mixture because you have a whole bunch of people who are, dissidents from communism who deserve support,
100%.
who are going to be amazing Americans.
Yes.
These are some of the, it's kind of shocking how many of the immigrants are so unbelievably pro-American,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because we see the other side of that too. But now you have kind of this mix, so it makes it hard, right? It makes it hard to kind of figure out who's who. And it's easy to attack also. Hey, why are you against immigrants?
Yes,
it's like,
exactly.
well, I'm not against immigrants. I'm just against those people.
Yes. Right. And the weaponization of immigration. I think what we have to understand is that immigration 50, 100 years ago, it was overwhelmingly people making individual decisions. I want a better life. And they would come here, and the expectation that they had and that fellow Americans had was they were going to assimilate. They want to become part of the American dream. Doesn't mean you forget the homeland, but you embrace those, core American values. What happens with weaponized immigration is it's changed. You have these foreign actors that are manipulating our immigration laws to their benefit. And there's this real pressure that's brought by the Mexican government, by the Chinese government, that once migrants are here, they are attacked and ridiculed because they want to assimilate. I quote in the book a senior ranking Mexican official with the Morena Party saying that Mexicans that come to the United States and embrace American values are traitors. They're traitors to Mexico. And he says that President Sheinbaum agrees with him. So it's a very, very different dynamic. These foreign actors are manipulating immigration in a way that's tragic for our country. It's tragic for a lot of the migrants, and it's beneficial to our enemies.
So O. Garrett -S7M. The 14th Amendment was intended for free slaves and not both birth tourism. I thought Sasha was going to look at this. Sown Bird's Nest, 62.99. No shame, no apologies. Need to protect your own family, your culture, and your country. Kathy Zimmerman -X4J. It should be if the mother is not an American citizen, then the baby is not an American citizen. Just being born in the U.S. isn't an automatic citizenship. If the parents aren't American, citizenship if the parents aren't American citizen and go back to their country of origin weeks after the baby is born, that's crazy. Here's another one. I hope the SC, which is the Superior Court Justice, get to watch this video and end this birthright citizenship. Let's continue.
Just even the concept, right, that assimilation was something that was we had to kind of focus on and make happen, right? I mean, I'm Canadian. We escaped communist Poland. My parents did not want to live in a communist society. That was the reason.
Yes.
We ended up there, right? And so it was just obvious that we wanted to leave that part behind, but we want to learn Polish. I learned it. I'm a native speaker, so yeah. Exactly what you're talking about, but it never occurred to me until I did a few interviews back in 2019, 2020. The bad things of the culture can be important, and if there isn't an obvious expectation of assimilation, you're going to be importing that thing.
Yes, exactly. Right.
And it's kind of obvious when you say it, but it wasn't obvious to me, and probably still isn't obvious to a lot of people.
Yeah, and you think when you're coming from let's say a country that's been torn by war, that has oppression, that has, let's say, some real cultural challenges, you're bringing that with you when you come to the United States. And people don't choose where they're born. We understand that. But the notion that if you come here from a culture that, let's say, has all sorts of issues in terms of the way they treat women, the way that they value or don't value private property and privacy and individual rights, that's going to have huge repercussions. And the problem is compounded by the fact that not only do you have these foreign actors that are fighting against assimilation, you have domestic actors. One of the things I do in the book is quote a lot of progressive activists who talk about the fact that they favor mass immigration. Why? Because they see it as having a transformative effect on American society. It's the way to kind of remake society in the vision that they want, not where America is today or not where even the American people want to go. This is where I want to go as an activist, and I see these migrants as a tool for my political weaponization. And they're quite explicit about it. I mean, that's the thing that's shocking. So I think we need to wake up to that fact. The migration we're dealing with today is weaponized. It's very different than 50 and 100 years ago. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't have immigration. My parents immigrated from Europe. I think it's a wonderful, beautiful thing, but we have to understand what's going on and deal with this weaponization first. And then we can have the broader conversation about the level of legal immigration that we want.
So right now, probably the last thing you want to be seeing is a pitch from Jan, but I want to encourage you to subscribe to the Epoch Times.
Why he want to go and promote his video or his channel, I want to get into some more topics, right? Because if birthright citizenship would have just remained for uh, the children of slaves, we wouldn't be having this issue today, and that's just simply put, right? But since it went beyond that, here we are. We have to go and back and look at the historical analysis and the in the story, I'm exactly right. The historical analysis of why that amendment was actually put in place, because black people, after being enslaved for 400 years, didn't have a home to go to, and there was no telling what country they came from when it regards to the Atlantic slave trade. So comments. So, how many American men married a Chinese mail order bride only to have her divorce him as soon as her citizenship was sound? How many Chinese men could she then marry to make them citizens? So, aren't people with U.S. citizenship required to pay U.S. taxes regardless of where they live? If true, let's start collecting our taxes and revoke citizenship. That came from Everett Smith, 2460. Let me see. Let's get into another one. Elizabeth, 69 to 70. I have learned a lot from this video. Let me see. I'm trying to stay with the short ones, right? So, Knowledge Bound 87. This is a longer version of it, right? So nowhere in the Constitution does it states birthright citizens is guaranteed. Refer back to the attorney, Senator Jacob Howard, who helped write the 14th Amendment. The first draft of this 14th Amendment just said all people born in the United States are citizens. Not, however, Senator Jacobs Howard introduced a second draft which stated all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. And this former state attorney general did not seem to think it covered literally everyone present in the United States under all circumstances. And this is kind of what they're getting into right now with regards to subject of the jurisdiction, because there is understanding now that there are different forms of subject to the jurisdiction. You can be subject to the jurisdiction in terms of crime. If, for instance, an illegal immigrant was to commit a crime in the United States, he would be subject to the criminal jurisdiction. However, that is different from political subject to the jurisdiction of the United States.
It is how we keep the lights on. It is how we keep these interviews coming. Just hit the link below and subscribe to the Epoch Times. Or, you want to kind of like blow out the economy,
Yeah.
so you can transform it into a more socialist economy. That's nuts, but there's people like working on that too, apparently, right?
100%.
And then there's people, for example, and the whole Mexican example is fascinating, right? This idea that there's this manifest destiny, we need to reconquer the South, and this we can just do it. Even if there's a border, we can have it, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff you describe in there. It's kind of, so there's all these different actors, and it almost seems like there's a lot fewer up until recently that were like, hey, wait a sec, right? And
Yeah. No, you're right. And what's funny about it is not funny. I mean, it's helpful in a way, but all the things that when you look at the motivations of these foreign actors, they're open about it. So, when it comes to Mexico, this notion that Mexico views mass migration as a way of extending their sovereignty into the United States to reclaim portions of the American Southwest that they lost in the 19th century, they're actually openly saying it. I mean, these are senior government officials from various political parties that say this. Whether they actually mean that.
I mean, wasn't that a part of the whole Chicano movement with regards to the whole idea with regards to land grants? They've been saying that for a very long time since I've been born. So that's not a new idea. And so how do we get to this place where you continue to allow that to happen? And predominantly what you have, when it comes to immigration, either you have the Chinese, it's just so funny, or you have some Hispanic culture that is crossing the border in order to gain citizenship into the United States. When, like he said, certain these specific countries are being open about trying to infiltrate the United States, either to gain influence or to regain the territory that was lost during the Mexican American War. Right. So our Reeser, I guess out of Alhambra. Alhambra, California has a lot of interesting immigrants that have babies. The children have dual citizenship. None of them speak a word of English. I have friends that live out there. It's really amazing. He married highly educated woman who was Chinese. His boys are bilingual. The mother wasn't around much. The older boy got an amazing scholarship to UCLA. Full ride, graduated top of the class. Father, I think he moved to New Orleans. Hey, you know what I'm saying? That's a lot going on right there. Visitor gave birth. Visitor gave birth to. Visitor gave birth in U.S. should not be granted U.S. citizenship. All CCP billionaires gave birth to kids and took those BB back to China to educate them and sent them back to the U.S. Should ban their citizenship, or we don't have a country. And somebody agreed with that by saying, I agree with you. I guess they stating one individual was saying that it should go back 13 years, and he's saying 13 years my butt. Basically, I read about this. I read about this in the 1980s. One person wants to end birthright citizenship. Another, Karen Williamson dash J9N welfare to the millions of needy from the world paid by we Americans that are trying to make ends meet. Insanity. This video is a tremendous video. It speaks with regards to a lot, but it's speaking the truth. It's bringing truth to light. That how birthright citizen has been abused in this country in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different forms. And if you don't think that it's being used as a mechanism of war in this country against American citizens, and you seemingly don't see the changes that has occurred within the last, I could say specifically 3 decades, particularly since the 1990s, but Biden blew it up. Biden blew it up tremendously to the point to where this country has to get back on the scheme of things when it regards to nationalism. And that means Black America, that you are a part of that, of this nation that has the benefit of having the recognition for being key contributors in this nation. And I'm glad for the White House seemingly slowly beginning to push this idea out with regards to your contributions to Black America, but how we have shared ideas in this nation when it comes to white America and Black America. And this is why the Immigration Act of 1965 was not needed. They've been needed to work on this instead of allowing so much immigration to come in to this country since 1965. This has been should have been happening. You know what I'm saying? There is no need for, as we beginning to work on this whole idea of us being one unit, one country, one nation, all American citizens, no matter what color, whether black or white. Here we are today. We are still facing the same things, which our forebears have had to face, but it's differently now because now we didn't add other mechanisms in this place. Specifically, I'm proud at the fact that we as Black people, we don't necessarily have to have this fight. This is up to the federal government to fix because it was their policies that started this whole thing in the first place. Tiny Cross-H.U.G on the Trumped Up Live Show. Always remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel. And always remember, man, it's a good day to be a soldier.